team, I'm here. Thanks for joining. Hopefully this is all working. I'm waiting for it to catch up, you know how it is. It was a little bit slow. Come on. Let's see what's happening. Don't know. It's very slow today. OBS warned me about something. So I guess something's gone awry. 1 second. Sorry, I don't know why, but my stream view of YouTube was showing me a much delayed view, which is not helpful for me trying to spot whether I'm working or not. So yeah, hopefully now it's all clear and it's working and you can hear me okay. Hi Carlos. Is sound okay? Is it too low? I can boost it up a little bit more, I think, without breaking everybody's ears. So just let me know. Hey team, how is everything going? How's everybody doing? What have you been up to this week? Let me know. Let's chat. I have been doing a lot of things this week. I've got probably a busy. Hopefully, I've got a busy month ahead or so, which is maybe not what you want at this time of the year, but there you go. So yeah, I'm excited for that, but it means that I wanted to get a few things out of the way before I get into that. And by get out of the way, I mean stuff that I enjoy working on, but I've got limited time to do it. So I've been basically upgrading Laravel from what was it using? An old version of Jetstream and Livewire 2 and Filament 2. And last week I had a crack at kind of upgrading all of those all at the same time, which is a bit nuts, but it worked, so I'm happy about that. And I didn't release it because there were a few other side issues, but I ended up releasing it yesterday. Still an issue cropped up, so for a little while Laravel went down, and then only for maybe 20 minutes whilst I tried to figure out what the problem was. I didn't figure out really what the problem was, and what happened? Well, I ended up having to just redeploy. It was a really weird situation, but I was working. I went to an office space of some company here called Secret Source, which are a really cool little agency. They use Laravel, and there's a bunch of nice people, and they let me go and use their office whenever I like, which is really nice of them. And it just so happens that Zep Fitcher is here from the Filament team, so he's on the island, which has been great. We've spent some time together. We've had lunch and dinner and whatever. And so we were together yesterday in Secret Source's office, and we were, having a good time, chatting about everything and swapping notes, that kind of stuff. And then I told him that the site was down after a deploy, and he said, just try and deploy again, which was a really solid idea because I did that and it worked. I think that kind of led to a discovery about something and the way that my deployment set up, that the order of things matters. Which I can't really figure out why it wasn't in the right order in the first place, because it was all set up by Forge. But anyway, I've shuffled some things around and hopefully that won't happen again. But I'm just using Forge's deployment process, which is quite simple, maybe overly simple for something that is ultimately becoming more and more complex. So yeah, I might have to shift away from that. Maybe should talk about deployment strategies. I don't know what everybody else is typically using these days. Are you using Envoy? Are you using some other tool? Are you paying for it? Are you using like a hack together bunch of scripts, etc., etc.? It'd be cool to get a read on what people are doing. The company that I was working for as a full-time employee up until some point last year, we were using Envoy scripts that we rolled out on our own, and they worked really well. I think it was a bit sketchy at times, but mostly it was really solid and super flexible, and we weren't dependent upon some other service to run the deployments, which was nice. I liked it, and I had plans to turn that into a more fully fledged and flexible, even more flexible solution, so we could share, because we had a lot of these Envoy scripts in the different repositories and different systems that we were deploying, and it turned out that a lot of them were very similar, so they could share some stuff, and it would have been beneficial to us if they shared some of that logic. So I was looking at porting that into its kind of own package, but I never finished it off, which is a shame. But there you go. So yeah, tell me how you deploy stuff at the moment. That would be an interesting conversation. Separately, what else is going on? Oh yeah, PHP 8.3 was released yesterday. Ta-da! I mean, I had nothing to do with that, but it's exciting news. It's cool. How do you all feel about PHP 8.3? Did you see who did I think Brent and Frake and Roman did a stream yesterday. I didn't see much of it. I caught up later with a bit of it. It was cool that Brent was wearing a hat and people nerding out about this little language that's taken over the internet. Was fun. It's fun to watch. So I'm going to try and watch the rest of that later on. What else? Let's talk about the project that you're all here to witness. My webcam is funny. Is that because it's moving around? Should I turn off the portrait mode? Is it portrait mode? No, it's not that one. Where? I'm on the wrong thing. Hang on. It's center stage, isn't it? Should I stop it from moving around? Because that's really... So my camera setup isn't great at the moment either. I think it's kind of... I need to just get a better setup, but my phone is perched on the top of my external screen because the phone camera is the best one that I've got. Sad times. Hey Ryan. Well, hello there. So the phone camera, perched on the edge of the screen up there is like, it's not in the best position. It's super wobbly. If I touch the desk, the screen sort of wobbles a little bit, even though this is quite a stable desk. It's not great. Oh, thank you. Yes, I did. I got a haircut yesterday. It was needed. But also, I feel like there are a few people, naming no names because they're not going to be present maybe for a little while, who have set the bar quite high in terms of appearance on a stream or a recording. And I feel like I've got to keep up a little bit. You start seeing me wearing hats and gold chains and bling and stuff. No, it's not going to get to that point. But anyway, nobody's answered really, how are you? I hope everybody's okay and having a good week. Cool. So I said I was going to jump into the project that hopefully you're all here to kind of watch me dive into a little bit more. because the first bit there is some exciting news. Oh, nice, wrapping up lots of projects. I love that. Wrapping up projects is fun. Well done, Ryan. I hope that all goes to plan. The exciting news on the spread project I've been working on is I had an actual customer use it to create a payment, and they went through the payment flow and succeeded making a payment. Yes, I've done it, obviously myself, and it works, but now someone else has done it. This is a huge milestone. It's like, I mean, it's not a paying customer yet or anything like that, but it's somebody has taken my instructions, they've been able to follow them, they've been able to use them, and the system worked, and they were able to receive, the money. So they probably just sent themselves some money as a test. Yes, exactly. Outside validation. It's amazing. And it's not just outside validation. I can see the transaction. Do you want to see it? Let's see it. I can see the transaction. But there's something even better than that. Let me just get rid of some of these windows that I've left hanging around. Typical. No, coding, that's the one. How does this look to everybody? Do you know, I'm sorry about now that my head isn't moving, I'm down in my little helmet. Hang on, let's see. I'm sorry about the noise as well today. I have, maybe the movement won't be so bad now because it's down and stuck in this little bubble. I tried so hard to time this so that it doesn't clash with somebody's efforts to clean them. So it always ends up happening at the same time. Oh well. So this is it. What can we see here? These were me. Look, team ID 2. That's me doing a bunch of tests, and this was a successful one where the payment was made, and because of some stuff which I'll go into in a minute that I set up, I received notification that it was completed, so I could update my database with a status change. So the status is now 1, which means, great, I can update my UI, I can send emails or notifications, I can do a bunch of other things off the back of that, which is perfect. That's exactly what this system needs to be able to do. And then, so I got that working, and I was like, right, well, I should tell the people who've signed up, how they can use it and what to do with it and that kind of thing. So someone did, and it's this one, Team ID 4. In fact, they did 2. They created 2 payments, different payments, 1 pence each. So the denomination here is in pence rather than pounds. And it was successful. They sent themselves 1 pence. And they got back to me this morning to say that it had gone through all successfully. So that's great. That's like huge milestone. What else though is the really, really good thing about it is they gave me feedback. They really spent a lot of time thinking about the process and what it's like end to end, and gave me some really, really insightful feedback. And it's actually mostly quite positive, which I'm super pleased about. Firstly, that this is super easy to use and it works, obviously. That's an important thing. So great, that bit's nice, but then there's some bits about the Trello flow that aren't quite ideal for the way that they want to use it, and it's not obvious that it's this product spread that I'm building, and it's like you're handing it off to Trello and these other things. So there's a whole bunch of things that are going to come out of it, and hopefully I'll be able to work through some of those with the Trello team and make it a little bit cleaner overall for everybody, because I think there's a really good core here now for what I want to be able to do, which is awesome. So, and it works. People can use it. So if you're in the UK, here's the thing, right? It's Black Friday as well. I haven't got anything to offer, really. I mean, I've been doing discounts on other stuff, but with this, there's no real product here or anything like that. But one thing that I can do, and that I think I would like to try and do, is if you know anyone who's potentially interested in taking payments in this way and trying this out, It's obviously, it'll be free to start with because I'm going to have conversations with them. I'm going to be learning from them. I'm going to be building the product, and we're going to work on that together. But I want to get, I obviously want to make it into a product that's successful financially as well for me as a business. So what I'm doing is, if they're prepared to pay a monthly fee, that's all, like no commitments, just 1 month at a time, of £50, 50, they can have unlimited payments. I don't know how long I'll be able to do that for. And the payment amount, the per payment amount will be like increased. So at the moment I've set it to £1,000 as the limit whilst I'm kind of in this beta phase. But in theory it can go much higher. I think what I'll do is like ratchet it up slowly as we start to see people needing it. But if anyone specifically asks, like, I want to be able to do it, I think we can get it up even higher. The actual technical limit for open banking payments is £1 million. £1 million. If your bank supports it. So obviously each bank is going to be slightly different. Some are going to limit that to like daily thresholds and things like that. So it might be £50,000 or something that a single payment can be made. But the scope is there for that to increase. So if anybody wants it, or if you know anybody who wants it, who's in the UK, wants to set up a very easy to use API to receive payments, is prepared to do it in like a private beta, having calls, giving feedback. There's not much UI there yet. The website, as you've maybe seen, is pretty rubbish. Then tell them to get in touch with me. They can go to, where can they go to? I haven't even got a browser window. Let's have a new window. They can go to justspread.com, and then they can go sign up and get beta access and send me an email, and that's it. Then I'll get in touch with them. Cool. That would be great. You can do that now. I won't be opening sign-ups anytime soon until the product is actually really ready. So yeah, but if you've got any feedback as we're doing this process, we're going through the next bits, I'd love to hear it. Obviously that's the point of doing this in open, is so that you can see and you can have a say and all of that stuff, and hopefully you enjoy that process too. Cool. Let's move that up a little bit so everybody can see the chat that I can see. Let's move this and get that out of the way, but I actually do want one, so I'm going to go to spread.test, because that's the same, but it's our local one. We'll get on with something useful. So what's useful to do next? I don't know. This is fun. This was cool. I'm going to leave that open actually. Oh no, that's the live one. I don't need the live one. I need my local. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Right. Local database. Where are you? Oh. Cool. I think I accidentally wiped out my local database and filled it with test data. Yeah. That's not fun. But this leads to a couple of other things which are cool. Am I going to Laracon EU in Feb? No. They sold out, didn't they? I think I saw a tweet to say that they sold out. So doesn't look like I'll be able to get my hands on any tickets, which is a shame. Let's see. I might just go to Amsterdam and then be hanging around like I don't know what, waiting to see fans, waiting to see the artists come out of the back door. so to speak. There's no. Oh. I would have expected it to say something on there. Okay, so there's a waiting list now. Yeah, I was hoping for a bulk discount on Laracon EU. They don't seem to have done it. If they had, I probably would have got a handful of tickets, actually, just to get the price down and then maybe sell some on or give them away. But yeah, it's not to be. Yeah, I wish I could just rock up. I think that would be fun, but I don't know if I can. If I can just be there because I'm there, and I can turn up for something, then I might do. But honestly, that's probably going to be challenging. Anyway, that's a shame. Are you going, Ryan? Are you going to be at Laracon EU? I'm literally holding my breath waiting for your response. That's terrible. Okay, let's not do that because I'll die. Let's think about this. I'm going to... what's he said? Yes. Yeah, so nice. Lucky devil. Okay. What shall we do? Okay, the thing that I want to go through first is where we got up to. And so I did something that I said that I wouldn't do very much of, but I have done because I couldn't help myself. I probably tweeted about this the other day, but I kind of believe that if your head is in the space for doing a certain thing, you should do that thing, because you're probably going to be more motivated, you're going to be in the zone quicker, easier, and get it done. And my head was in the space of doing stuff on this, not on stream day, on Friday. It was in the space of doing stuff on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it was. And I was just like, you know what, I've got all these other things that I need to do on all of these other systems and whatever, but my brain is kind of itching to do this, so I'm going to do this, and this is what I did. So what does it revolve around? Mainly it's webhooks. So as I said, the kind of payment flow is now complete in some respects. Like the payment can be made and then Spread can receive notification that a payment's been completed, and it all matches up and everything. And that's achieved by webhooks. So Trello set up a webhook, and I did some of the work on this last week. We kind of readied it to see if it would work, and then I had to test it to see what data actually did come through from the webhook, whether it matched the documentation that they'd given me, whether I could get this signature to work with the data that I had. And it turned out there was a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't quite right. So I worked through that and tested quite a few times. So I sent myself, not a lot of money, but I sent myself quite a few payments. So now I'm able to abort if the signature coming into my webhook endpoint doesn't match the signature that I calculate from the data that's provided using the secret that Trello have given me. So that webhook secret is exactly what I needed. And that, so I can protect my webhook endpoint against abuse. And then I'm just logging the data that I'm getting from the webhook itself, just so that I can keep an eyesight on that. For now, it's not a sexy solution, but it's a solution. And just to be clear, the data that comes through that is really minimal. It's just the payment ID, the Trello payment ID, and then the status value. And the status value is just a string. In fact, it looks like well-formed English, which is not a very good way of sending a status update between systems, but it's fine for now. And I started adding tests. So we have a test class, which, sorry, this isn't a pretty way of looking at things, but I'm using pest because I've used pest a little bit, not very much, and I need to get more into using it because there's lots of stuff that it can do that I'm not even tapping yet, which I would love to start using. But so we've got this fleshing out some of these tests, and what I also wanted to do was kind of explore using a state machine. So I did a video about this the other day, where I was talking about the talk that Jacob Bennett gave at Laracon US. It was a really good talk, and it got me like, I need to do this on this, because this is a perfect case for a state machine of this kind of thing, so let's do it. So these tests, basically, there's a few simple ones here which are kind of trying to prove out that the state machine works, that, you know, when a payment has been marked as paid, it can't be cancelled, right? So there should be an exception of some sort. I'm keeping it really simple and whatever, but when it's not able to be refunded when it's cancelled. So if somebody decides that the payment should be cancelled, then it can't be refunded, you know, and it's not able to be paid when it's been cancelled. Those sort of, I mean, there's like a lot of overlapping things here. It might be super obvious, but I thought it was helpful for me just to be explicit about it. These are the kind of main things I don't want to be able to happen. There are some that are missing, like there's probably states still to come and logic transitions between states that shouldn't be able to be applied, but we'll see what happens. And then because of the tests, it forced me to have some factories. So I came up with some factories that actually make sense and kind of give us some useful what's the word, fixtures for testing purposes. Just some configuration, and then this is the main bit. This was the state machine usage stuff, and I want to kind of go through how I was thinking about it, and some of the maybe challenges that I think are there. I don't want to spend too long on this, but I kind of approached it from well, I was just watching Jake's talk and then kind of building it out for my use case. And it sort of dawned on me that there is this sort of variability coming from outside of the system, which I wasn't quite sure how to handle. My first approach to it was, you know, a payment state might come through that says it's successful, which is what I currently get from Trello. I don't know what else I'm likely to get from them because they haven't documented that yet. But in theory, I guess maybe a payment could look like it's succeeded initially, at least for the end user, but for whatever reason it's been prevented, like their bank has said no, or the receiving bank has said no, and it's been bounced back or whatever. And so it actually has ended up as it's failed. So then we'd expect a status update of failed to come through, and we need to reflect that in our system. The way that the state machine kind of the way that I'd kind of got it in my head was that both of those states could be covered with just one, and we just say it's completed, because the result's the same for what you then might want to do. You know, like if it's paid, you can't cancel it and things. What else can't you do? You know, you can't move it back to unpaid. If it's failed, you also can't cancel it or move it back to unpaid, but you might not be able to move it to refund it. So is this slightly different? And this actually really only came out later. But so I was thinking initially they were very similar, like almost identical. And so they could just be encapsulated in a single state. And it turns out they really can't. Like it's really important, I feel now, that your states in your state machine need to represent a clear individual state, and you shouldn't try to abstract them out into something with more complex meaning, because just for convenience or because you want to deduplicate some code or something. There are other ways to deduplicate that code that you can share between the different state classes. So I moved away from it being a completed state to actually having a paid and a failed state. And that just means that now I've got, instead of a somewhat ambiguous state transition function, I've got two clear and separate ones. So it's pay and fail. And before I was having to do things where I'm like passing the actual status value, this enum that I've got, into the state transition function, which is maybe okay in some circumstances, but it just felt really, really weird. And then I was moving, there was a bunch of this logic that was moving into the state machine, and it, like, I don't know, it just felt icky. So there's this little bit of logic which has to stay outside the state machine at the moment, which is actually working out what to do based on the status that's coming back. And I think this makes sense. It's kind of like a routing logic for the state machine. It's to say, this is happening in the outside world, and therefore you should do this or you should do that, which is exactly what Jake really demonstrates in his talk with the invoices. So it makes perfect sense. I was just trying to be too smart. So just don't try and be too smart. Keep it simple. So this feels really clean. So I've got, and that was just the other thing, is he talked about using enums, right? So he said, let's use an enum here because an enum would be cool. But he didn't demonstrate that in his talk, just for convenient, clarity of what he was talking about. It was a distraction from the main theme. So I've swapped it out for an enum here, and I think this is really nice. So it's obvious that when the status comes through as paid, we move to pay. So we put the state, I don't even know what the terminology is. This is how bad my understanding of state machines is, but we enact, we do the pay transition on the state. And so if it's in a state where it can be paid, then this state transition will apply. Which is cool. Like it makes this super easy and approachable and digestible, whatever the words are that mean that when I come and look at this, I can go, oh yeah, I know exactly what's happening here, without having to dive into any great depth. How does the model change? Obviously, the model has got to be able to know all of these different states that it could be in and set them up. So there's another match statement here for this state method. And I can see this is where, a package or something that's really thought about this and abstracted some of these pieces away can make this really powerful, because this is quite, you're just going to repeat this lots for the different kind of state classes that are being created, and the rule that says that this is what this makes this state the state of the thing at the moment. So there's a lot of repetition here that could be removed, but I actually really like right now, whilst I'm still getting my footing with kind of properly implementing a state machine, I like the fact that I've got it all explicit and typed out and it's there, and I can I can refactor it later when I want to, and I understand a bit more, or find a package, if that makes sense. Right, so we'll have a look at some of these state classes, because you'll see most of them are quite silly. In fact, you might say for some of them it's just not necessary. Maybe there is one grouped state that they can be, but again, I just want to be really explicit. I think that the fact that they're different classes means that they're different types. That's all kind of interesting. So I'm going to pop all of these open. Sorry, I'm doing this the slow way. So there's two things to note. One is the base payment state class, which is just the one that accepts the model into it and then throws exceptions for every state transition. That's really simple and like obvious. And then the interface, which needs to be applied so that we know what we're dealing with and it's just good rigor, which defines the state transitions, right? So we've got our state transitions, then we've got our default state and state transitions, and then the only things that actually have to contain any real logic are the ones where when the state changes, when the state transition function is called, we need to do something. So it's that event action, but through the state machine. So it's event state action. We've delegated the handling of the event to the state machine. And the only one that I actually do anything in at the moment, or the only ones, is in the unpaid payment state. I can obviously pay it and I can cancel it. I don't even handle the failed state here, which is interesting. Or not the failed state, the failed state transition, which I probably should do because I've set it up in my my model. Was it in the model? No, it was in my webhook receiver. So, you know, there's some bits there that aren't piped up, and obviously my tests haven't covered that yet, which is okay. But it's simple enough. I'm happy with this. I don't even know if I'm going to hit a fail state. As I say, this is just complete conjecture. So this is fine. Happy path. It works. Like, I've set up the cancel stuff. I haven't even got a concept of cancelling a payment yet either. So that doesn't matter. And the main thing is it just updates the status value in the model and sends a couple of emails. So one is just a mail, because I don't think a notification was appropriate for that. It was like a level of abstraction that was unnecessary just for sending one email. And then the other one is a notification, where I want to send a notification to a user of spread. So in this case, the owner of the team that the payment was made to say that they've received a payment, and that is a mailable. So it notifies them by mail using a mailable. But the idea is that maybe eventually that notification can happen through other means, so like Slack or SMS or I don't know, whatever. So I wanted to use a notification for that. Also because I've never really used notifications very much. I've always fallen back onto one of these. Hey Daryl, nice to have you with us again. I'm just running through some of the stuff that I did the other day, which I said that I wouldn't do stuff when I'm not on stream on this project, because I want to do it all kind of in the open. That's why I'm opening this up, because I ended up just doing it because my brain wanted to do it. So there we go. These are the emails. They're really basic at the moment. They are just like, here's the payment, here, here's what this should look like. So, yeah. No, nothing special. I'm not putting any effort into making it look nice or thinking too hard about what the detail of those should be. Just saying, you've received this much from so-and-so, or you've paid this much to so-and-so So yeah, to the team or from the customer. So that's it. They're basically the same but different. We don't need to look at the rest of that. So these are all just the published vendor email files, which I'll probably change at some point just to make that more branded. What happened here? Upgraded Laravel, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, that's too much. This was a slightly separate issue. What did I find? Oh, I was trying. So in the emails, I was trying to use the amount of the payment, and I just wanted to be able to get the amount as a nicely formatted string value. And then I thought, it would be nice because of the number class that Laravel had just released, to use that. Why not? But then the value that I store in the database is pence, not pounds. So there's a little bit of conversion logic required, and then I get into this mess of like, currencies, blah blah blah. Even though the only currency that I currently support is GBP, but the rendering the amount is dependent upon the currency. But I also need to do some work on the amount before I can render it, because I need to convert it from pence to pounds. So I have this idea of a denomination factor, which was previously only here in the, the data, the DTO for the response from Trello, which is really not the right place for it. But it was just, I was doing it quickly. It was the only place that I thought that I needed it at the time, so I put it there. And as time's moved on, kind of realized this needs to move out, and it makes the most sense for that to be associated directly with the currency, right? So I put it in the currency enum here. So there's this function which will now look at the current currency enum value that you're dealing with and give you the denomination factor for that one. Obviously GBP is 100, so GBP 100. And then I could refactor this logic out of here and just, as you can see, I just get the currency and the amount. That's the amount that's coming from Trello. That is going to run our new setter. So the other thing that was happening here is the amount was being multiplied by this denomination factor, right? In the way into my database to make sure that I store it in pence, even though I receive it in pounds. So it's actually used twice. It's used on the way in and it's used on the way out. And that's why it makes sense to centralize it and refactor all of this. And it does make it look simpler, in fact. So we get rid of all of that logic and we get rid of this messy blah, and we just swap it with amount, and then we can set the currency kind of as we're doing before, but like in line. And then what we need to do is make that amount an attribute. So I can run that logic, whatever logic on the way in and whatever logic on the way out. So the getter and setter, or mutator and accessor. And that highlighted something really interesting. So when I was building the factories, when we built this payment factory, I was bumping into this issue where I was setting amount using this, and I was setting currency using that, but it was struggling to render the amount. It was throwing some spurious error about the amount, and it not having access to the currency. Where is it? So let's have a look at this again. And I was working through the code, and I'm like, well, why isn't this currency available? Because I'm passing it in when I'm making the model? Well, it turned out, actually, in my factory, and not just in my factory, we'll see, I'd got currency after amount. Now you might do that for a number of reasons. Like I did it because it felt appropriate. Some people like to order their array items by the name, alphabetically. So amount would come first in that scenario anyway. There might be a whole bunch of other reasons why, just like randomness, you just happen to think about one instead of the other first. Because there's a dependency between these two values, in fact, there's a dependency from amount on currency. Currency has to be set first. I never really thought about that. I don't think I've ever had, maybe a long time ago, and I can't, the case of it, I can't even remember the details, but mass assignment, which is essentially what's happening with the factories and probably what's happening elsewhere in my code, of the amount and the currency at the same time, you have to put the currency first because amount is dependent upon currency. Now that probably says that I should split out that dependency. I shouldn't make amount dependent upon currency, and I should use some other method which combines the two. So I know that I can check for currency first and all of that. But what I actually ended up doing, which I think is fine, and which you've seen, even if we've not looked at it explicitly, is this check at the start of this magic method call. So when I call for amount, that is the wrong thing. When I call for amount, I'm just going to write this code. It doesn't matter where it is. Right. So if I'm doing this amount like that, what that's going to do behind the scenes is call that amount method that we've created. So this one on the model, right? So it's calling whatever instance of payment amount, and it's effectively, it's getting the attribute back. So internally to Laravel, it's saying, I've got an attribute class, so I know I should be able to do something with that. What's the getter function? What's the set? What am I actually doing? Well, it looks like the developer is trying to get the value of amount, so it runs the getter. I don't know what the method actually is internally. I'm going to say it's run getter, so it runs this function, and then it's going this currency denomination factor, which is going to calculate my denomination factor based on whatever the currency is. The currency is GBP, denomination factor is 100, and it's dividing the value of this attribute by that value. Cool. That now works. I'm leaving this in place because it actually reminds me that I need to set the currency before trying to do stuff on the amount. And it's in both places that it's got this dependency on the getter and the setter, because I need it on the way in and on the way out. So I depend on that denomination factor function. And that, yeah, it is a bit gross. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not 100% happy with that still. But it's fine because I'm going to bump into this. I'm not going to be seeing some spurious error message and going, what the heck is that? I'm going to be going, oh, exception, currency must be set before accessing amount. Cool, I know what that is, and I'll reorder them. And that because I set up that exception to happen when this was in place, and I ran the other part, which has also not got a test covering it yet, of actually creating the payment via the API, the Trello API. You can see here, nothing's really changed. All I've had to do is move these two, well, that one line down underneath currency, and now it works. So it kind of popped up straight away and then revealed that that's the right solution. So I'm leaving that exception in place, even though hopefully, I'll remember to write the code in the proper order if I ever have to. Hopefully that makes sense. What else? I just tidied up some of the statuses. This is the horrible value that we get from Trello at the moment. As you can see, that is not like a really nicely machine readable value. I would prefer something else, but it just looks like one of those things where they've outputted the string that they would use to display it to the user, and that just means that it could potentially change, like for all sorts of reasons. They decide not to use the word successful anymore. I want them to think about that and go, hang on, this is to be communicated between systems. So we don't want to force other people's systems to change if we don't have to. This should be some special, magic string, and that should be clear in our documentation. And then if it does change, we have some change management process to make sure that people are aware that that change is coming. But it feels like it's not that at the moment, so it's kind of a little bit risky. Anyway, what else is going on here? Oh, it's a bit of code tidy up. So I use a short closure here. It feels a bit nicer. It also, what does a short closure do? It gives us access to the variables in scope at that point in time, implicitly, doesn't it? So that might actually be useful. And then we've looked at this. Okay, so I've ended up, it's taken me probably longer to review all of that, but I think it's helpful. Hopefully everybody feels like we're on the same page and you haven't missed anything. Where does this bring us to now? I think this brings us to, let's go back here for a second. Some of the feedback that I've received from that one user who's managed to make a real payment is about them being able to get at what's happening. Like it's all well and good that I receive a webhook from my provider to say that a payment's completed, but for me, and send an email to somebody, but the next thing feels like, well, if you're building a piece of software, you also want to receive an automated notification. You don't want to have to parse emails. You don't want to have to poll an API for updates. In fact, there isn't even such a thing in my system at the moment. So what can we do? Look, let's stop my camera moving around. So the request has come through, and I think this is the thing that we should work on right now, because I'm hoping that it's going to be really, really straightforward to basically be able to provide a webhook to my merchant. So they can say, here's where I want you to send a ping to say that a payment is completed. And then they can do stuff off the back of that in their system. Fine. That feels really appropriate. So what can we use for that? What would it take? Is it the right thing to be working on? Because there's a lot missing at the moment. We could have a nice bit of UI. We could start to flesh out, like presenting the payments and other bits of details in like an admin interface or something like that. I don't know. So I kind of feel like this webhook thing is actually the right thing to do, because so far I'm seeing that people can integrate with the API with my API with very little detail, and they can get going and they can succeed. I think like this is the first attempt that somebody's had to make a payment, and they've done it really well. It's worked. So far it's 100% success rate, which it's not statistically significant, but if this person was hitting problems and they were unable to complete it, I think the frustration there might mean that they would never really bother anymore or whatever. I'd hope they'd try and carry on, but the reality is that if people can't get going straight away with something, then they're probably not likely to continue. And I think that because this one has been successful quite quickly, I have high hopes for what most people can do, which might be misplaced, but it means that I don't think we need to focus on the user interface and that kind of stuff, all of those other reinforcements that give people this feeling of, oh, this system works, just yet, because they can see it working. If they are able to create the payment, go through the flow, and receive the money in their account, that's confirmation enough. And then they get a notification at the moment via email, so that's like second confirmation. And now we're just saying they want their systems to receive a confirmation. I think if we nail that, everybody will be able to do like really cool stuff without even having loads and loads of documentation, without having like a fully fledged website, without even having a real brand or anything like that going. So I think that's what we should build. What do you think? What do you guys feel? Is it right to go and chase down webhooks, or should we do something a little bit different? I would love to know. While you all think about that, I'm gonna just do a bit of searching to see how I might go and do some webhooks. Of course, Sparty have got loads of packages about webhooks. Classic. So let's switch back to this for a second. Where are we? I actually feel like I might implement this at some point. This is the webhook client, so this is for receiving webhooks. And just straight away, I'm thinking, okay, they've got verifying signed calls. I've just implemented that. Like last week we did that together. So cool. Don't really need that, but they've got it, so tick. Storing payloads. I haven't thought about that. That could be really useful. And actually for like traceability and stuff. Maybe we mentioned it last week, but for traceability, that could be a huge thing. like why was the status updated or not updated at a certain point in time? Did we just receive one webhook about this, or did we receive multiple? Blah blah blah. That all feels really, really useful, being able to store payloads. And then obviously if you're storing them, you can process them in a queue. Now you could do that maybe without storing them, if you could serialize all of the payload into a job and blah 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 blah. But you might as well get it into the database first, and then you can queue the job around that record, which means your jobs are much leaner. But that's cool as well, because it means that it's cool in one respect, having a queued job to handle the processing of a payload, because we can at least say we've received the payload. And that's really, webhook doesn't really care about what the response is, it just wants to know, did you receive it? So the sender of the webhook just wants to know that it was acknowledged. They don't necessarily care what you do with it, but there is a catch. I think there are some that will want to know whether you were able to process it successfully as well. But maybe that system design just needs to be thought through a little bit more carefully. Anyway, that's a little bit of a distraction. We've already got webhooks. What we've got works. This would be an enhancement on that. Maybe it's the right way to go at some point. I think I will do this. We'll remember this. I don't know why I've not started this one, because I definitely would use this at some point, if I haven't already. So, also looks like it's mostly just configure I wonder how this handles multiple ones. Is this, it's an array of arrays. Okay, so we can name it, and then we can give it a specific secret, which we've got. We can tell it what the signature header is. That's what we use. And then we give it a signature validator, presumably, so there's some ones that look quite similar to what we need it to look like, what our code does out of the box, because I feel like that's pretty standard practice. Profile. Okay, what we're going to do with it, what the response should be, where we store them, what else we store. Okay, it's like a really robust webhook package. Yeah, lovely. I should have used this. We should have used this right from the beginning. Why didn't any of you say that? Come on, what are you here for? You just got me on as background noise. Never mind. It's fine. I still love you. Okay, so there's that. But then there's sending webhooks, and that's what I want to do. So they've got, what's this say? No, this is just a general article about it. Fine. So there's nothing super fancy in there that I don't already really know. Most of the detail is going to be in this Laravel webhook server package thing. Now, the reason why I think I'm reaching more for a package for this off the bat is I think there's a lot more complexity to sending webhooks than there is into receiving them. So we've got to think about all of the considerations of what if the webhook isn't received. So we think we've updated somebody's system. We've notified them of an update that they should have then made to their system. But in actual fact, from their perspective, there is nothing. They've not received it. How do we even tell whether they received it or not? And what should we do if they don't receive it? Should we retry after a certain amount of time? How do we do that so it's not a nuisance for them? The signature thing, like we've got to make sure that we sign it on our side, sharing a secret with them, blah blah blah, so that they can check that the security that I've applied on my end for receiving a webhook is the same principle they're going to have to do on their end from receiving a webhook from me, to make sure that they are actually receiving a webhook request from me, from my system, and that it's not just someone else impersonating my system and trying to get them to update their system, I'll say illegally. So yeah, signatures, retrying, and backoffs, which is exactly what this supports out of the box. I don't have to build all of that stuff, frankly. I like the idea of it just working from a bit of configuration. Maybe this has enough for us to achieve what we're trying to achieve. The complexity here is we're sending webhooks to specific people, so we've got to be able to pull out a URL from the database, which we don't yet have, that's tied to the specific merchant, so they can say, here's our webhook endpoint, please use this. We've got to decide what the data that we're going to send in the webhook is going to be, and we need a place to store a secret, which is probably also going to be on the merchant's record or the team record. So there's quite a few changes still to make. Yeah. What else? What am I missing? What am I missing, folks? Where have you all gone? I hope it's making a cup of tea or other hot beverage. On that note, I'm going to have a sip of water. Tell you what, let's set ourselves a challenge. I've been going for just about an hour and 10 minutes, I think. I don't really want to take up everybody's time, and obviously you're free to come and go as you please, but what I would love to just do is, let's smash this out. Let's let's aim for 1/4 the hour, right? So it's 3:47. So for me, if we're giving ourselves less than 30 minutes to just hammer out a webhook server using this, I think that's probably enough time, probably too much time. Just gonna go for it. I don't know, like, I'm not putting too much effort into researching other options at this point, because Sparty packages are really well built. It meets the requirements that I've kind of fleshed out already, verbally. I think this is going to work with, it doesn't really say about compatibility. There's a lot of good bits in the documentation we can go through. Yeah, it doesn't say anything specific about compatibility, although here I can see there's mention of Laravel 10 support. So I'm going to presume it's going to work with what we've got. So that would be good. Yeah, I do like it when people put a simple table on the documentation, and I don't have to go digging into this to find out if it's going to be compatible. This looks like it's going to work. That would be a cool little thing, actually. If you could do, that might be worth doing, like a graphic generator that you can then just drop a tag into your README files that stays up to date with your compatibility. So you could say, I want this to show whether it's compatible, which versions of this package are compatible with X, like Laravel. So, and then you'd have a way to define what the requirements are as part of the tag, and then the tag would obviously try and generate an image. So I'm going to make a request for an image, and it's not very readable. It's not user friendly. It's not like screen reader friendly and stuff. But maybe there's something in there of like an automated way to do what I'm just talking about. But that's that again, massive distraction, complete. Like that's not going to do us any favors. Right, let's go back. Let's install this server because I'm wasting time. I've already wasted 2 minutes yakking about that. I'm just going to go for it. We're going to do this one. We're going to install this. I'm going to see how far it gets us, and then we'll go from there. Let me shrink this window so I can still see the chat, even though no one said anything for ages. Composer require blah blah blah. What's going on here? What's going on with this? Oh yeah, I left that junky code in there, which I don't need. Right, I'm gonna close all of this. Let's just clean the slate. Let's get ourselves onto good footing. Yeah, right. And other thing I should do at some point is get used to branching off here for doing these pieces of work. I obviously at the moment it doesn't matter because everything that I'm doing it can wait. Like I'm not doing anything in between. I'm not trying to solve bugs and other things in between. But eventually it feels like I'm gonna need the main trunk to be able to work off of without introducing work in progress and stuff. So I don't mind now, but I would normally create a new branch because that's the way that I like to work. Publish the you can publish the config file. You should publish the config file. I'm guessing that you have to because it looks like our configuration is all going to be defined in here unless the generic configuration is fine. So I would say you should publish the config file because I think I'm going to want to change this stuff. Right. Nice. Config. Let's collapse all of this stuff. Well, I don't care about that. Config. Webhook server. Lovely. Let's just get this down. Queued sending as well. Yeah, I like that. Probably don't need it in the first instance, but I do like it. Post, yeah. Proxies. Why would we need proxies? I don't think we need proxies. Signer. This class is calculating the signature that will be added. Can use the signature to verify it hasn't been tampered with. Yep, that's fine. We'll send. Where can I send a request that I want to? There's probably like what's a paste bin. No, what were they called before? Webhook testing. No, oh God. What was it called? It's like a post bin. Post bin. Paste bin, post bin. Ugh, it's been acquired by Toptal. Yikes. Well, If it works, fine. Let's see what we'll see what those look like in a second. No, I was here. Sending JSON, that's fine. So far I haven't had to change any of the config, but if a call to a webhook takes longer than this amount of seconds, the attempt will be considered failed. 3 seconds, I think that's sensible. The amount of times the webhook should be called before we give up, 3. This class determines how many seconds there should be between attempts. Exponential backoff strategy. Let's have a look at that. So 10 like to the power of the attempt. So if it's 10 to 1, then it's going to be 10 seconds. If it's 10 to 2, that's going to be 10 times 10. So that's going to be 100 seconds. So it's going to be just shy of 2 minutes. And then if it's 10 to the 3, it's going to be 1,000 seconds, which is, I can't even do in my head. 16 minutes. Right. Okay. That seems reasonable. And then after that, it's always 100,000. What's that in minutes? 1,000 minutes, which is just over a day. Right, so then it's basically going to do it every 24 hours. But we've already said it's only going to try 3 times. So that feels okay. We can tweak this if we need to. I feel like that's probably fine. Webhook job, used to dispatch webhooks on the queue. We're not going to use that at the moment. Presumably, the fact that we haven't set. Oh no, it's always going to queue them. Interesting. Is there any way to say I don't want to queue them? I just want to send them immediately without relying on the queue configuration. Don't know. Specify tags. Fine. Throw exception on failure. No. Oops. Verify SSL. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Okay. I'm happy enough with the configuration the way that it is by default. What seems to be here is it's reliant upon the queue, which I can kind of understand, but if I just want to send it straight away, package user queues, be sure to set up a real queue. That's a good shout, Stephen. Hi, Stephen. Thanks for coming. Let's have a look. Good shout. If you would like to call the webhook immediately, you may use the dispatch sync method. Right, so we can actually ignore the default configuration. When we create the webhook, we can just dispatch sync. Fine. Let's do that. So I'm going to copy this. Right, now where does this go? I want this to happen as soon as my payment gets completed. So I kind of know already that this needs to go in our unpaid payment state. It needs to go alongside this. It's a kind of a notification. This is like some of this stuff gets a little bit. There's Laravel notifications. We're sending a webhook. Is that a kind of notification? Should it be wrapped up in the same thing? I don't know. Does Laravel notifications support webhooks? Laravel notifications, webhook. It's not going to have the same level of complexity. There's a notification channel for webhooks. Who's done this? What's Laravel notification channels? Who knows? Look who it is. Some of the lovely people. What does. Where are we for time? Oh look, I've got 15 minutes. I said it was going to be 15 minutes past the hour. MISC webhook. This package makes it easy. Well, that's okay, but it's not going to be doing. Also, this says 6, 7, 8. That's not. I don't know if. I mean, I'm guessing it still supports 10 somewhere under the hood, but this documentation's out of date. It's not doing all of those things like storing, queuing and things that we might want to do later on. It's just going, although it could use the notification queue and stuff, I guess that's the, what else? It's not doing signatures, maybe. We'd have to do that bit ourselves. I would have to do that myself. Yeah, so I like the fact that the Spatty one has got the signature work built in. So I'm happy enough to just say, let's go here, let's send that, and I just need to import this class, and this needs to be swapped out for this payment team. What should we call it? Webhook URL. That makes sense. And because I've got this payment team, I don't mind the repetition. Forget that. Forget what I was just going to say. And this can be webhook secret. Okay. And the payload we need to think about. But we can just leave that as something basic for now. Right, and we said we're going to dispatch sync, even though I've got the queue connection is probably, or queue driver is sync in my setup here. So then it's about triggering this state transition, right, and making sure that this webhook call class gets called. Does this have, so anything about testing? Can it be swapped out so that we don't actually make a call? I guess that's going to be dependent on whatever it uses under the hood, which I'm gonna go fully into it being guzzle, which means if we were able to swap out the guzzle whatever that it's using underneath for one that is just like a testy, oh that's the wrong word, test like guzzle class, then I can't see it. It's not jumping out at me, folks. I'm guessing that it's going to be a little bit of a hop, skip and a jump to make this a bit more testable. Let's have a look at the documentation. So we should be reading the documentation, which I have glazed over yet again. Testing. Okay. It relies upon us faking the bus. When using the package, we want to perform one. So let's do it. Let's set up the test, right? Because then it feels really appropriate. I've got that test payment test, and I want to make sure I'm going to just add it to this. This isn't really nice either. I'm going to add it to this test. But merchants webhook URL. So I can do bus fake. Import that and bus assert dispatched. Is it called webhook job? I don't know. Because we're going to do a synchronous one. I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's have a look. Dispatch sync. No. Is there anything about sync in here? No. There's a lot of logic in here, so I'm going to assume that this one is. Well, it says dispatch, so it's going to be dispatch sync in here somewhere. Yeah, okay, that's why. Fine, so it's just building on top of jobs. It's got all of that. So in theory, that should occur now when we try to transition. PHP artisan test. I don't care at the moment which one of these, but like, I don't care that they don't exist. I don't know it's going to cause an error potentially, or I don't even know what it's going to do. I don't even care what the values of these actually are either, because they're variable. It's not what I'm testing. I'm just testing that this has been dispatched. It's been created and it's been dispatched. One failed. Oh right, okay, so it must be a string and it's empty because we didn't give it any value. So in lieu of the fact that we've not got that, we'll just give it a string. Maybe a blank string is enough. Maybe it'll still throw an exception on that. In fact, let's not do all of that. Let's do tests feature. Is it tests? Yeah, I should just be able to do payment. Use secret. Well, let's dump that out for a second. Maybe if we remove that, we don't need it. What else is it failing on? URL still not been set. Yowzers. So, okay, for this, I'm now, because it wants a URL, and I haven't given it one, because I haven't got one set up on my team yet, because my team doesn't have the capacity to do that. I'm just going to do this with that. Oh, it still failed. Could not call because no secret has been set. That's pants. So is that because I've got to use a secret? Is it forcing me to? Okay. Well, then super secret. Let's assume that it does. Okay, and it passes. So the test's proven that we've got our webhook call running, and then we should see some data in this bin. Oh no, we won't see data in the bin because it's using the test bus. It's not actually calling anything. Fine, great, Spatty, you guys are amazing. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of my secret. And we can think about, before we do anything else, we can think about what these things should look like. So I'm going to need migration make, migration add webhook details to teams table teams, and we call them webhook URL and webhook secret. So add want table. Oh, it's like it can hear me. Copilot can hear what I'm saying. That's actually fine. I don't need them to be anything else. I don't care about down. Just gonna leave that dangling. PHP artisan migrate, and then in my Teams factory, where is my Teams factory? Ah, no, in my payment factory I need to do the team. Oh no, it's not even there. Where is it? Where do I associate that with a team? Where do I do that? Oh, it's not Teams Factory, it's Team Factory. What? Where do I? Oh, I'm doing it in my test. I'm just being really, really thick. Sorry. It's here. For team, and then I can say there. This should be sufficient to make it still pass that thing. Cool. And just to prove that, if I get rid of those, it will throw the errors about missing a URL and stuff. Cool. Right. Fine. What else do I need to do? What's the time? 11 minutes past. Nearly 12 minutes past. I think we might have done it, you know. I want to prove that it actually does send. No, we haven't done it. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Still, we haven't thought about what should be in the webhook yet. In fact, it's highlighting already something that we've missed elsewhere. So, in the response that we send on when a payment gets created, which I don't test, as I said before, I haven't got a test for that yet. We should be sending. Where do I do that? That's in my payment controller. Here, I should really send back to the client an ID of sorts. And this is leading me down the path of I need a UUID for the payment. I don't want to share the Trello one. I want my own. I think. Does it matter? I don't like exposing a third party thing. I like the idea of maybe creating a UUID off the primary key, but there's a problem with that. It needs to be a generated UI. I want the UUID to be the same for all time, regardless of what might happen to the database, and primary keys can be recreated. So I'd need to generate a UUID and fix it to this row in its own column. So then I could reference, maybe I can just do it off the Trello payment ID, because the Trello payment ID is always going to be the same. 1 second. Who knows? He didn't want anything. Hi Samuel. Don't worry about joining late. We're still in the thick of it. I hope it's not useless for you. We are creating a webhook server, and I'm using Sparty's Laravel webhook server package, which has enabled me to do it in no time, which is great. Now I'm just thinking about how that ties in with the rest of my system. So here, if we just do, yes, reference, let's do reference. Is there a UUID thing in Laravel? There is, right? No. How do I make a UUID? Where's that coming from? Oh no, that is not. That's not what I want. Fine, that's what I have to do. How do I generate one UUID from another? Oh, we've already hit the 15 minutes past. I know, it's just going really brain slow. Well, okay, let's ignore that for a second, because it's a little bit, I'm not really talking about what, thank you. Is that going to let me do it from another UUID? That's the question. I guess let's say string. It's just going to generate a UUID, right? It's not going to let me do it from a string. But there's one of the UUID types will give us a repeatable, it's kind of like a hash, I guess. Maybe it's a hash is what we should have. Maybe that's all it needs to be. But yeah. You can generate a UUID from a UUID, and that's what I want to do, because I don't want to expose the UUID that's been given to me. I want to give a different one, but I think it makes sense for it to still be a UUID. I also don't want to create another one and store that next to it, because I don't think there's much value in that, because I can create a UUID from a UUID reliably, means that they should always be unique, right? What's the UUID library that everybody uses? Ramsey. Is Ramsey still available by default? Composer, show Ramsey. Or am I going to have to pull it in? It looks like it's here. So I should Ramsey. Why is it not giving me prompting? It was, but I couldn't see for all of the options that there are. Wow, okay, let's not do it that way. Let's try and figure it out properly. Link. Name-based SHA-1. Oh no. That means there's a chance that we do end up with I mean, there's because SHA-1 and MD5 are cracked. Doesn't this mean there's a chance that we might end up with UUIDs that are actually clash with each other? I don't know. This also isn't the right one. It's not 5. I can't remember which thing it was. I've definitely done it before. But it's not. Oh no, I think I have to tell it the right namespace. Right, that's it. Yeah, so the namespace is. Where are the namespaces? Where's the namespace for? No. If it's a URL, can't I just make the UUID, previous one, a URL? Let's try. Let's see what we get. Ramsey UUID UUID 5. And I'm going to say, was it? I want it to be I think it's payment Trello payment ID, and we'll call it reference. Like it was gonna call it. I'm gonna import this. Let's see. This is where it would be really helpful if my test could run around this, but at the moment that would require too much work because this is calling a real API and I haven't created the kind of client yet. I haven't figured out something we talked about ages ago. Figured out how to use Saloon to write a test client, which I'm sure is really easy, but I haven't done it yet. So right. Let's assume the reason that I went down that sidetracked path was because I want the webhook to match up to this, right? So when the webhook gets sent, the client receives an ID that they already have and know about. That means that they can then match it up and go, oh yeah, I've got an update about this. Yeah, this is also a good shout. That's what I was thinking potentially, was that it could just be a hash. There's something about UUID that feels like something people would expect. If I start, they might store it in a database and they might need to make it indexable, and this isn't particularly indexable very well. Maybe the hash even is better in some respects for that. But I kind of really don't like the idea of having to process it off this external bit of data. I'm doing it just because I can. At least I think I can. Maybe this doesn't even work, but I would really like to probably generate these on my side, and then I would do them as a time-based one. You know, one of the, is it number 7? Yeah. 6 is reordered time and 7 is Unix epoch time. Okay, so there's some, I don't really know what the difference is between 6 and 7, but it sounds like 7 is really, like, my point is, if somebody's going to use this in a database, they're going to index it and they're going to want some kind of quick thing. Version 7 feels like the appropriate one to use, which means I need to generate them at the time that the record gets created, not off the back of another value, because I can't. That would be the best solution, and that's probably what I should do. And it looks like Ramsey UUID supports it, so I could get a UUID 7, which means if I'm just being really, if I just go, let's not do it off the back, let's just do it, right? So say it's UUID, right? So I should store the UUID, and then I can do that when where do we do it? I need to do it here as well. When we create the payment to payment model, that's probably where it ought to be, which is in pending payment data object. So I'm going to say which one is string UUID? Honestly, Laravel string UUID. It's going to be a 4, isn't it? Or maybe it doesn't even tell us what one it is. Let's just dig into the implementation. Come on. Yeah, a 4. But if we set we can set a UUID factory function. But I don't want it to be that thing. So I'm gonna be a bit brutal about this. So that's going to return the UUID. Do I then need to stop prompting me? I don't know that that's real. You're just hallucinating. So yeah, toString, fine. That means make The UUID factory is for generating UUIDs in a predictable manner while testing. I haven't come across the UUID factory. Where's that? Oh, sorry, in the string class that we were looking at. Yeah, I got it. I wouldn't use that normally. It's only for testing purposes. Yeah, I guess it's kind of, if you knew that at the whole application level, you wanted your UUIDs generated by the string helper. It's not the helper, is it? It's the string support class. To use that same functionality, then we could do it in like a service provider as well, which makes sense, because then I could say, well, they should always all be UUID 7. I don't want to do that. I just, in this occasion, I do want a UUID 7, and I want UUID to be on the table payments. So I'm going to add UUID to payments. And it shouldn't be nullable. And I don't really care about indexing it at the moment, because I don't need to. Should I? Will I need to? Yes, let's do it, because I think what that allows us to do is expose them publicly, which is also something else that I want to do elsewhere. So I am going to index them. And then let's see what happens. I probably need to wipe out my database. Whatever. So now when it creates a payment, it's going to create the UUID. That is not going to happen because I have not put it here. Also, yeah, that feels weird doing it from the outside, actually. Maybe it shouldn't be here. Maybe it should be on the model itself. But I'm not going to squabble over that right now. We can come to that later. And what else? So then we've got an ID that we can share publicly. We feel comfortable sharing publicly because it's not anyone else's, it's ours, we've created. So I share it, payment UUID, which means when the webhook gets sent, as long as the data in the webhook, it references that reference, so I can do reference. I'm just keeping it simple, right? It can be the UUID. And then I want to say that the status is whatever the name is. Yes, because the statuses on my side are this enum, and they're just integer backed, so the integer is not going to mean anything, whereas the name of the enum itself is the thing that matters. So I think that's okay for now because these make sense. I think if these stop making sense externally, we'll change it to something else. So that might be enough. That would be paid, the UUID and then paid. Now I do want to test what the payload looks like. How can I test what the payload of the webhook looks like in my test? Don't think we get access to that, but let's see. I can assert that it was dispatched, but I can't assert anything about it. No, because it's just the bus, it's not. really checking. Okay, well, I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable enough with it just being it's not sending out real webhook anywhere. I do, however, need to check that that's going to work. So, how can we imitate that? Well, I'm going to tinker. I should set this up in Tinkerwell because this, in fact, let's do that. I've got Tinkerwell. I should set it up in Tinkerwell. Oh no, that was the thing that I wanted. Look, I've already done it. Oh, why do I keep pressing that button? So maybe I can do payment. Yeah. Create. Oh no, factory, because I've got a factory. Can use that. How do I actually do it in my test? Factory. I'm gonna create it because I want it to save. I'm just gonna do all of this, but I wanted to actually send a webhook to that endpoint. Where is it? This one. Is it that one? It kind of looks. No, it's not. What? Developers post bin B versus the URL is different in the body as it is in the. Anyway. Yeah, sorry. The delay is not great here. I can't make it any faster, Samuel. But you were right. You had the right thought. I think we probably ended up having it at the same time and in different times. Don't care what the customer is. Oh no, I've done that in the wrong place. What am I doing? That's my test. I want to be in Tinkerwell. Pay attention. I want to create and then I want to move it to paid, right? Because that's what my webhook does. But I don't, the webhook that I received from Trello, not the one that I want to send now. And this is going to say it's now paid, and I want to send a webhook to the one that's registered on the team with the data that we've set. So this should set up just return pin. This should set up in my actual database locally. So we should see a new payment come in here. But it's failed. Oh, did I not migrate? Oh no, I've missed something. What have I missed? UID is fillable. It comes out of the pending payment. Should do. It's definitely there. No, it's not there. Why is it not in the query? Wait, am I looking at the right thing? It's got to be. Yeah, this wouldn't be. No. Fine. Should it be in the factory? Oh, that's it. You're absolutely right. I haven't put it in my factory. Just, I'm creating the thing without actually doing it from the. That'll do. That'll have it now, won't it? Why is that still errored? It's created it, but it's errored. Oh no, the error's been left from last time. Can I clear this? Nope. How do I clear that error? That's annoying. So I should have my own UUID. There it is. And it should have sent that webhook, actually. But it didn't. Oh, it died. I had it open for too long. Or something. Didn't send something to it in time. Curse you, TopTel. Let's try it again. Let's change that URL. See if it did it. No. Don't know. Well, we tried. I think what am I missing? Has it gone into the log somewhere? Have we got some log that says it's failing for some unknown reason? Wow, what a mess. I need to delete this, don't I? Payment controller does not exist. That's not now. That was ages ago. Wow, that's useless. I mean, I think if it errored, we would still see the error, right? Sorry? There's no need to be sorry. For what? What? There. You were absolutely right. I don't know. I think this TopTel bin is nonsense. This should be going straight away. There's no issues there. And I think we can kind of prove that. Unless I'm being, like the error that we're seeing in payment paid, that's fine. Unless this error we're seeing here is still valid. So UUID doesn't have a default value. But the thing is, the record gets created and it's got a UUID that we've added. So there's no real reason why that's the case. I'm not seeing any output. I'm not seeing the dump here. Why is it not doing anything now? Tinkerwell, what's going on, man? It's creating them, but it ain't coming back with nothing. I don't know. Reload Tinkerwell. That's it. Good shout. Reboot. I think if this doesn't do it, I think there's something else afoot. I just like, even if Tinkerwell was not showing me the latest state, I kind of feel like this would have something in it. This bin should have received a post request from us, and it hasn't. Let's see, did the status of the payment get updated to 1? It did, right. So it's definitely getting paid. It's running our state machine logic, which is updating the payment. Let's just run it again, see what happens. Not getting any dump at all. Wow. This is really unusual. Like, I thought this would come with some output here. This isn't right, is it? Why is that getting so lost? Is it because something about this doesn't like PHP 8.3, which I'm on? I don't know. It's not very helpful. And this isn't very helpful. Let's try a different post bin thing. Request bin. Oh my gosh, why? This is completely unnecessary complexity of this UI. Actually, let's have a look at did it create a team or did it with a hook? It did, right. So it's all working. Let's just save that and run it again. It's not sending it. It's definitely not sending it. Let's try it that way. It's not sending it at all. Why? And there's no errors. Oh no, Sparty, you've let me down. Why? Let's move this above the just make sure that's empty. And we've got payments. So I'm looking for number 23. Number 23, paid. Blah, blah, blah. Nothing. And no output in Tinkerwell, still. There's definitely a query being made here. There's 3. Why is it not logging those queries? For 1. Okay, let's try a different approach. Let's not do it through Tinkerwell. Which is unfair because I like Tinkerwell and I was hoping that was going to work. Let's do it in the context of our application, which might, I mean, it should be, that's what Tinkerwell is doing. Oh, that's no good. doing this, but hopefully it'll work better. Wowzers, that was silly because it broke. Ah, sneaky. Right, that's because I've not left hello open. Well, that's just dumb. Maybe it'll work in Tinkerwell now. I don't know why it's not showing me the nice error. There we go. Lots of queries, lots of stuff. Let's get rid of the queries for a second. Payment paid, ta-da. Right, so we can get rid of that. And now our webhook actually should have called. There we go. Reference, status, paid. Perfect. So I was way off. I thought we were going to be able to do that nice and quickly, but it turns out it's taken an extra 35 minutes of faffing because I don't know what I'm doing. That's kind of strange. There's some, I probably need to do something different here in case one of these steps fails. I don't want the other ones to fail. But maybe some of that will come out when these get queued. Like this would be queued because this is a should queue. Yeah. So maybe they won't fail like that. Maybe also just whatever the exception is will bubble up and I'll see it. And for some reason Tinkerwell didn't handle that particularly nicely this time around. But that means at least now I can set up a webhook with a secret. I haven't had to write that code. All I've had to do is set up my webhook class in whatever, you know, this stuff that I've done that actually means that it works, which is great. This is, I want to savor the moment, but also it's late and people need to go and do other things. So I need to go and do other things. Yeah, thanks, Samuel. This is the problem with this delayed approach. Like we should maybe do something to fix that. But I feel like it will be a much better feedback loop between like a two-way thing if we were on a call and maybe pairing up to solve some of this stuff together, because that would be more fun and more real time, at least for the people who are on that call. Anyway, right, let's jump out for a second. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to do that offline so that you don't all have to watch me doing that. But this has been incredible. In my opinion, this is like a huge step forward, because we've added the ability to give our own internal payments a public facing reference that we're comfortable with. So they've got a UUID that we've generated that's time-based, so they're kind of nicely indexable and sortable and that kind of thing, that other people can store in their own database, which is nice. And then we're able to reference that reference again later on with our own webhook, which means that what are we doing? We've enabled a third-party system, any merchant that signed up to Spread, to be able to receive like almost real-time updates about the payment. So not just they get an email to tell them that it's been received or that it's been completed, but now their system can respond to it too. That feels super mega useful. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to deploy it. I think we've been able to test it, so we've proven that it works. We've not added anything really crazy, and I think that this is all ready to just wrap up and deploy. So that's what I'm going to do. Thanks for sticking with me through that. I know it wasn't necessarily the best experience, as we were just like scratching our heads for a while trying to figure out why we couldn't get it to do the things we want to do. I think what that leads to is I need to write more tests. I need another test around actually creating the payment itself, and we should tackle that one next week. So next week, if you want to come, same kind of time, we will finally get into writing a test for a Saloon client library that we've created. So, and then we can get on to some more interesting things, hopefully. That will be quite a quick one. But thank you very much for your attention, everybody, and your time and all of that. It's been a wonderful, goodness me, it's been 2 hours and 25 minutes just now that I've been streaming. I am going to go have a break. I'm going to go and have a weekend, and I hope you're going to have that too, and I hope you enjoy it, and you come back next week for lots of refreshed work, PHP related things. Have a good week. Nice one, team.